Good morning, everybody. I'm sorry I'm a minute late. This is a work session for AM 216-2025. Executive appointment confirmation hearing, Kelli Toth, Solid Waste Services Director. We'll start with introductions.
Mark Littlefield,
Zach Johnson.
Scott Myers,
Christopher Constant.
Felix Rivera.
And I think I didn't say today is February 28th, 2025. That will start with introductions. Mr. Spofford.
Mark Spafford, Deputy Meeting Manager.
Kelli Toth.
Mr. Spofford, you have the floor.
Yeah, so again, the mayor wishes that she could be here to introduce and speak very, very high. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Salt. I didn't know you joined us on the phone, so I would note for the record also Mr. Salt is with us on the phone.
Yeah, so as I was saying, the mayor wishes that she could be here to introduce Ms. Kelli Toth for her confirmation hearing for the position of Solid Waste Services Director. This is a position that's very, very near and dear to my heart, so I'm very excited to introduce Kelli, who you probably all know anyway, because she's been in an acting capacity for a while. But anyway, I'll turn the floor over to Ms. Toth.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Assembly. Thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit about myself, as well as the vision of where we want to head with Solid Waste Services. So a little bit of backstory for myself. I was raised in the Valley. My grandparents came to the state before statehood. They came here actually from Washington, D.C. He was a member of the Department of Forestry. He was a literal trailblazer. He designed many of the trails in the city, or not in the city, in the Mat-Su Valley. One of the trails is named after him. It's the Austin E. Helmers Pioneer Peak Trail. It goes up Pioneer Peak. So I met my husband while I was a student at the University of Alaska Anchorage. I married him and we lived out in Chugiak area, raised two amazing children through the school district. And I live in Chugiak and I've been commuting since, so I am keenly aware of the smells that are occurring on the Glen Highway, and happy to be in a position where I can help to do something about it. Last year, we did a lot of work, a lot of deferred maintenance there at Solid Waste Services. We became a landlord of the cold weather shelter when we vacated and moved across the street. We had a leaky roof that had to be replaced in the middle of winter. We had clients in there and we didn't have to move anyone. We had an unexpected Cell 9 seep. We moved 3 years of trash. The project came in under budget and on time, which we were very, very proud of. We had an unfortunate or fortunate, depending on how you look at it, visit with ACOSH and an inspection that actually fostered a lot of changes internally for Solid Waste Services last year. It's actually motivated quite a new culture shift and organizational leadership that's coming, that is happening actually at Solid Waste Services. We do have an aging infrastructure. You're going to hear on the agenda pretty soon about our software system that's going to be swapped out. The Merrill-Field landfill gas and seeps need to be addressed. The leachate pond upgrades, facility upgrades. This is the year of action. And we're also in a position to update our strategic plan, our integrated master plan. So all of those things are in the works for this year. We're also going to be pilot testing the leachate treatment system on site and gas collection system and beneficial use implementation, line jetting, lots of fun things, projects that are going to happen this year that we're excited for. Last year, we opened the material recovery facility because it was a promise that if we opened the new facility that we were going to be able to divert more from the landfill, and that's exactly what we did. We diverted over 650 tons of organics, which was up 30% from the years prior. And we were only open 3 days a week. So that tells me that we have great opportunities for this year to do more. We also opened the woodlot last year, which was closed for 2 years in South Anchorage. So it was great to have that open and available. We were also, thanks to the operations and also the weather, we were able to be nimble and have that woodlot open during the windstorm this year, which, man, the residents were so thankful for that. That was a big win for everybody. It felt like Disneyland over there. For the future, I mean, that's who said trash is fun. It's trash is treasure. That's what we say. The renewable landfill gas beneficial use project is something we're really looking forward to. I mentioned my grandfather as he is a trailblazer. I see this role as that. We have some great opportunities to reimagine how we do trash, what we do, how we can lengthen the life of the landfill. The fact that we are on the front lines of environmental stewardship in a lined landfill where we can responsibly dispose of items and do it for what makes sense for the city of Anchorage. People are the most important component of this department. We have some folks that have been here 20, 30, and 40 years as municipal employees. That is a very humbling position to be in and an honor to be able to be considered for the director of this position. In my professional history, I'm deeply rooted in public health with my background in drowning prevention. And it's interesting that public health actually began in the sanitation process. So that's what actually established public health. So that's kind of fun. And with that, I just would like to say that I'm honored and humbled and thank you for your consideration.
Does anyone have questions? Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Kelly, for being here. I think you do a great job, and I am excited about how excited you are about trash. So I
We
think
love
this'll
talking
be,
trash.
I think this will be a pretty easy confirmation hearing for you. So that's all I wanted to say. I think you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I need that on a shirt.
Okay.
We love talking trash. Zach.
Yeah, I guess I'll just kind of pile on too and say that, having had the opportunity to work with Ms. Toth as the acting director, obviously you're well qualified for the job, I think, because you've been doing the job for some time. And I appreciate that. I think you've had a good steady hand both in addressing like some real challenges as they've come up, while also staying pretty forward thinking about, creative ways to better utilize the service, right? Between material diversion, the woodlot, things of that nature, more ideas you guys are constantly working on and kind of rising to the occasion when we needed a facility for unsheltered people. So, yeah, just appreciate the work that's gone into it. And I think, like the rest of us, just genuinely impressed by your enthusiasm for the job. So I'm very happy to see your name coming forward here.
Thank you.
Mr. Rivera. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. What is your general plan for the future of the East 56th Avenue facility that's currently being used temporarily as shelter?
So the plan is, thank you for the question, through the chair, Mr. Rivera, that the plan is to, should it be able to be turned back into a recycling center, which was the original intent of the place, then we can do so much more there, really standing up a robust, accessible front and center place where the public can come and drop off all kinds of recyclables. And really the vision with that would be to establish a true circular economy. So the more that we can identify resources that can be diverted through that facility and turned into something else, that will help bolster the economy, get jobs going, and also lengthen the life of the landfill. And I think a workplace, a back to work kind of place. I think there's a lot of great opportunities there. And it's really exciting to have the opportunity to make recycling be a real front and center public conversation and a robust place for that.
Yeah, thanks for that. So I appreciate all of that. At the start, you said you used the word should. So I just want to interrogate that a little bit. As I understand it, the current memorandum of understanding between SWS and the health department, which those are the two parties involved, ends, I think it's September or October of this year. So I guess what is your sort of stance on, is once that memorandum of understanding ends, are you looking to negotiate an extension to that? Where's sort of your role in this, and what is your thinking on it?
Through the chair, Mr. Rivera, I think the plan is to see the signaling of if there is a decentralization. I believe that that is sort of the direction that things are going. So with that, we have plans in place that as soon as certain milestones and things happen, then we can continue moving in that direction.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that the plan is still to move forward, which, from my perspective, I was always excited about the potential of that facility. So thank you.
We are too.
So I, just as predicate, support your confirmation. I think you're qualified and you've done a great job. And still, I've heard some concerns from members of the community that your depth in the field of solid waste is limited. I think someone said, what does she really even know about trash? And so what is something we should take away to speak to the folks who might otherwise say, well, she hasn't spent a career in trash, so she's not qualified?
Thank you for the question. I appreciate that. That is true. But what I do have is I'm born and raised here. I have long, deep knowledge of our community and how we work together and how to get things done. And when you're a results oriented person that jumps in with both feet, you start to learn and you start to become a sponge and you do become a subject matter expert. Lucky for me, I have the previous director who is insanely passionate about solid waste and trash, who I speak to every single day. So I have great guidance because I have the previous director. I also have other previous directors that are at my fingertips on the bat phone, so to speak, available for my guidance. So I'm not the kind of person that believes that I am the subject matter expert just because I have a title. I very much my previous boss, who used to be at the Ulu factory, Mr. David Gransberry, who passed, used to say, I might not be smart, but I am resourceful. And we have a very deep bench of resources to be able to guide us. I did recently receive my manager of landfill operations certification, and I am very involved in the SWANA, Solid Waste Association of America, which is also part of the National Association and also the state association. So I'm going with it and I'm learning and we're getting things done.
So, great answer. And on your resume, it speaks to significant reduction in penalties through effective safety management. Over the last few years, I think the safety conversation, the ACOSH conversation, the DEC conversation has been one that was very loud and very public for a while, and then it became very quiet. And we don't really, I think, have any insight into the lately, other than today, I think I met the new safety officer, which is a good thing. So can you talk us through a little bit about the environmental management, the kind of improvements, the reduction in fines, and this whole universe about being in compliance so that we keep our workforce safe, our environment safe?
So thank you for the question. So let's talk about the safety side of things first. We were faced with almost $500,000 in fines, problems, issues that were all over the place. We went through the gauntlet and we were lucky to find a subject matter expert who was able to guide us through that process. We went through an informal process, and in talking with ACOSH, we got quite a few of those fines were dismissed, addressed, and taken care of. The rest of it, we were told to, we are investing the rest of the fine. It was about $10,000 that we invested into our safety program. So right now we have a safety consultant who is helping us to stand up a safety committee. And we are in the midst right now of all of the training that's required. And what we're doing is we're empowering even frontline people to become subject matter experts in safety, to be able to speak to it and to lead their section. So it is truly more than just putting a vest on. It's knowing what the vest is, why we wear the vest, where it is in the federal and state regulations, and all the things about it. That would be one example of that. So we are the whole safety program has just been revamped. And I think he's been with us now almost a month and a half. And so we're just getting kind of up on step and running with it. But it is definitely going to be a huge shift. And if anybody came out there and spoke to any of our operators or members of SWS, they would say similar things. They could tell you about their experience with our subject matter expert and training. And then in the meantime, we've got the safety position being posted right now. And what will happen is once that safety position is hired, then our SME will basically help us to onboard that person and continue on what is being stood up right now. Subject matter expert, yep, sorry, SME. Correct, sorry. And then environmental. So with the environmental side, what's exciting is, we produce quite a bit of leachate, which every time it rains or snows now, thanks to somebody over there at SWS, they said it's just falling leachate. It's something that we really need to think about in terms of we've got 275 acres that every time it rains or snows, and if any of that touches trash, then that's considered leachate. So what we can do to get after that is our 5-year fill plan, which we're doing right now, which will help to design the landfill through engineering processes that will create a diversion of that water and create storm water instead of leachate, which will be a really huge thing for us. So that 5-year plan is on the way. Also, as you know, we're under a compliance order by consent. And so that means that under that order, because of the NOVs or notice of violations that occurred years ago, we have a robust plan that we're working with DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, with the state to get through all of those permitting requirements and what our agreements are. And we're working through those. There is some progress made on that. I'm excited to be able to share with you pretty soon more on that topic as things develop. But with that, the part of that compliance order by consent is that we do a supplemental project. And so that's where the hybrid project of a reverse osmosis evaporator infrastructure, we're going to do some pilot testing on that this year, which will be super exciting because if we can pre-treat and treat all of that leachate on site, then we are not trucking all of those trucks over, and then which will impact our sister department, AWU, Alaska or Anchorage Wastewater Utility. So there will be less leachate in the whole system. So there's a lot of opportunities with that. And also there should be a conversation about just people understanding the engineering marvel that the landfill is, how it's designed. If you haven't ever come out and taken a tour, or even if you have and it's been a while, it changes every single day. Would love to have people come and do a tour so we can have conversations about that. But as far as environmental stewardship goes, the more we can divert, obviously, the length of the landfill that we're going to create. And also just the fact that the leachate, the gas, landfill gas, and being able to, instead of flaring it, we're going to find the beneficial use for it. Even what's happening at Merrill Field, all of those things, all of those projects are in process right now.
Probably have another question, but Mr. Salt asked to be in the queue, so I'll let him get on. Mr. Salt.
Thanks, Chair. Ms. Toth, I just want to hear a little bit on your thoughts of how we can get the city to evaluate whether to put an incinerator and the benefits of such a project. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Assembly Member Salt, through the chair. So question about how we get the public. It's what we've been doing is starting the preliminary processes of having conversations with all of you, having conversations with internally and making our plan and our roadmap moving forward. You're going to see a lot more effort on our side of things with public outreach, which is what I love. So working with our stakeholders and standing up a group of folks that will help to drive that effort and to be able to look at what our options are. Right now, our site analysis, economical analysis, the feasibility studies being refreshed. We're also working on the financial plan and analysis, as well as I mentioned before on the record about the rate analysis. So there's a financial analysis side going, and then there's also the feasibility side going. When those two things are completed, we are going to stand up our outreach for the public. And Mark has Mr. Spafford's been doing quite a bit of presentations to different groups. And so if anybody has a group who would like to hear a conversation about waste to energy, we would sure love to do it, because the more public engagement that we can get and more people that can get involved, we definitely want that. And I think it starts with the community councils and conversations, civic groups. Whoever wants to listen to us, we'd love to present and have a conversation.
Thank you.
All right, so, okay, I then have another question. I have some memories a long time ago, 2017, in the dark ages, the before times, that there has been, and I know this to be true still, an ongoing issue of overwhelming smell that kind of pervades one neighborhood, and that's kind of what I call the Wolf Den neighborhood. Some people might call it the Yellowstone neighborhood. I'm not sure the official neighborhood out there off of Eagle Point.
Oh, Eagle
That's it.
Point.
I call it the Wolf Den, but Eagle Point. And so obviously the answer to the smell problem is to capture more gas, to waste to energy incineration. But what are we doing to protect those neighbors out there from being kind of in that problem? Because, in 2017, the reason I went back to that, there were a bunch of solid waste services gentlemen who laughed when I said that. And I said, no, that's the smell of money. And I had to rebut, no, that's the smell of a neighborhood under siege, right? So how do we balance those interests, and how do we protect those neighbors from being in that cloud? And so I think the answer is self-evident, but I just want to have that conversation here, because I hope before I'm done in a year, we have answers for that neighborhood, because it's been a long time they've had to pay the price for Anchorage to manage its waste.
So thank you for that. And yes, I absolutely agree. And every single day when I drive to and from Anchorage, I also smell it. And so couple things. One is that we wanted to be able to create a conduit of a pathway to be able to submit your complaints directly to SWS. That's in process of standing up right now. We're getting an email that's going to be available and going to be posted. As soon as I get it, I have a really super cute and informational video of why the landfill smells and what we're doing about it. So, and that will also tag on to the email address, because as a public information officer, I did not realize that all of those complaints were being routed straight to the Department of Environmental Conservation instead of SWS, and that didn't make sense to me. As soon as I learned that, I said, let's stand up an email and let's give folks a pathway to be able to have a conversation about it. So we did that. Secondly, we are this year, I mentioned our aging infrastructure. The flare is just fine, but it's the components itself and the blower system. The blowers actually pull the vacuum off of the landfill. And so then it's either diverted to Doyon to be able to be turned into landfill gas to energy, which produces the 7 megawatts of power for the military base, or it's flared right now. And so what are we doing about it? We will have this year the blower system. The design is almost in its final stages. It's being looked at by our engineering firms and advisors. And then we're also having conversations with Doyon right now too, because they are a major stakeholder in that design. So as soon as the design is completed and everybody agrees with it, then we're going to move forward on getting, at least right now, the blowers and the header piping and that sort of gas piping and electrical components upgraded this year. So that will pull more gas off of the landfill, and then we'll be able to install an additional flare. That additional flare is not a signal that that's where we're going to stop, because what we want to do is have that as a redundancy in case we have to destroy the gas. Great. But what we really want to do is divert that for beneficial use. So we think in terms of short, medium, and long term. What's the short term? The short term is I want to give people a pathway to communicate. And medium term is we're getting the design finally approved so we can move forward and get those blowers and infrastructure put in place. Then will be the flare, then will be the beneficial use. And so I hope that answers your question. I can't fix it today, but I can certainly start making that plan and try to not be moving so slowly. We are results oriented. We're going to get something happening for you.
And in the long,
And for
long
them.
term is the waste to energy facility.
Yeah.
So, okay, I probably could ask a couple more questions. You know, I've been grinding axe on the payment system, and it's not
Yes.
my favorite setup. And also, there's one other thing, that's gonna top of my mind, but it's not there right now. So just the payment system and then concluding statements, because we have about 3 minutes left.
Okay, so thank you for that, because I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about our software system. It is like the 1980s where we don't have the ability right now for people to make payments online. It's crazy that we don't have that opportunity. Our software system, it's really neat to learn and understand what the collections drivers do, how it integrates in by taking pictures and being able to integrate that into the customer portal so people can see on the back end from customer service what's happening with the collections. If somebody calls and says you didn't come and pick it up, there's a photo of it and the customer service person can see it. That's part of that system. But being able to make payments online is something that we're working towards doing. In fact, I think it's going to make it for your next agenda. If it didn't make it this time, it should be on your next agenda. Will be a purchase agreement for AMCS for a platform. And that's an integration of what's happening on the trucks, what's happening online, what's happening with customer service, all integrated together to give us much better ability to provide much better service for the public. One last thing I want to say is that we are working on the secure trash zones and identifying those. And so, so Glen Alps, I believe that made it on it's going to be on the next agenda. But we are working with, the Glen Alps Community Council did a resolution, a unanimous passing of wanting to be designated with that secure trash zone. And I know that Government Hill Community Council is also interested in that. Now, the difference between the two is that Government Hill Community Council is in our service area. Glen Alps is not. So we've worked with the major primary provider in Glen Alps who has said, yes, we can swap them out, swap out those containers and have those bear cans put in place. I heard even as early as last night from some folks anecdotally that there might be some black bears waking up pretty soon if they haven't already. Yeah. So that means that in fact, just this morning, I had a conversation with Fish and Game, the wildlife officer, the wildlife person for the state of Alaska, and I are working very closely. There is those locks that I brought in last time for the enterprise utility. We're talking about, I did not realize this, but you have to have a certification of the actual can plus the lock to be certified bear resistant or wildlife resistant. I don't want to just wait for a certification. So I've offered up the idea of doing maybe a field study on our own in concert with the state of Alaska to just see if we can get something going for now while we're waiting for a certification, just some way to be able to start moving the bears along. And also there will be a coordinated effort between commercial haulers, the state of Alaska, and the municipality on bear awareness and trash, how to handle trash and how to keep the bears moving along. So there's going to be a coordinated effort this year, which you'll see rolling out as well.
With that, then this item will be back before us on Tuesday night, and I assume you would like to be sworn in. If the
Yes,
press is
please.
At the meeting, so we'll be prepared early in the meeting, and please feel free to bring your family and friends. All right, with that, then we'll go ahead and adjourn. We'll take 10 minutes. We'll be back on the record at 20 after, and thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.